we've got our next guest coming up now. We're going to have Mike Bailey. You guys have probably seen him before with the Bret Michaels Band. He's joining us live right now. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, April, how you doing?
Great,
Thanks for
man.
having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show tonight, man. It's been a great night. We had a wonderful breast cancer survivor on earlier, and she really got people excited. And there's a lot of people in the house right now ready to chat with you. So again, everybody be sure and pop any comments you might have or questions, and we'll be sure and read those throughout the show. But Mike, the thing I love to do when I have people like you on is start at the beginning, because you and I, we talked a million times, but like I don't know like your story of music, and I love hearing that. So how about you take us back to when you first realized you wanted to be a drummer? Like tell us how old you are and what happened.
Well, it's funny is I just finished, and it took me surprisingly, it took me a while to get. I finished the Peter Criss book, Make Up to Break Up, and that really brought back a lot of memories of just that was the beginning. Like my dad listened to music, all kinds of Waylon Jennings to the Doobie Brothers to Creedence to Elvis to Dolly Parton, and so I always had music around, but like Kiss. The vision of what Kiss did, especially like Kiss Alive, when I think I was probably 6 or 7 at that time, and 76, 77. And, I'd been banging on stuff as I listened to Kiss. And then when I was 9, my dad bought me my first drum kit. And I had gone through a couple of Toys R Us kits prior to that. And I think all drummers probably, they started young, they just destroyed them. And, so I ended up getting a cheap kit, but a real kit when I was 9. And that was it. Like, I just went for it. I enjoyed playing so much. At that time, never took lessons. It was never a problem to get on that kit and just start playing. I played Eye of the Tiger, and I just start playing anything I could play. And by 14, I was in a band. And I've been in a band. I'm I don't know, 51 now, but I've been in a band every year since I was 14, minus maybe 2 years
That's
where I had
crazy.
2 ankle surgeries.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's always been just playing the drums, just that and soccer in my youth. But then, post high school, really get serious about music and drumming. So,
so the kit that you got when you were like 9, did you say it was was it a real drum set, or was it like a kind of like a toy-ish kind of kit?
Well, like today's comparison would be like an CB700 or whatever. It was actually made by a company called Royce, like Rolls Royce. And in fact, I'd never even heard of a Royce until since I had it, until just a couple of years ago when I started doing my custom drum decor. I ran across an old Royce kit, which was crazy. But yeah, it was like a $300 drum set. It was a black kit. It was a 5-piece. And what's crazy is I was in Alabama visiting my aunt, my cousins on my mom's side over the summer, and my birthday's over the summer at the end of July. And I remember my dad calling me, and he had to work, so he was in Virginia, and that's where he broke the news and told me. He goes, "Hey, when you get back to Virginia, you're going to have a drum set here waiting for you." And I was like, "Let's go!"
Oh my gosh!
I was ready to go home.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, so it was a cheap drum set, but you know what? I tell you what was crazy about it is when I got the kit, my dad said, "Okay, you have what you need, but if there's anything else after this, you got to get it." So I'd mow lawns, or I'd shovel driveways, or I'd go down to A&P and I'd just hand bags into people's cars just to get $1, whatever it is, and just little jobs and to buy a new pedal, the Ludwig Speed King, if you remember that pedal. So I just started buying extra parts for it, and when I was 18 is when I got my next kit. Like, I played all the way through the first session of bands with that kit, and my dad co-signed on a loan when I was 18 or 19, and it's like $2,200, and I got a Tama Grand Star.
You gotta be kidding me! I just had to stop you because I was
Yeah.
like, you're like, I feel like you're telling the same story as me, because I was 19, and my parents helped chip in on a Tama Grand Star, a black Tama Grand Star in 1990. I bought it brand new, And so that's so crazy that that's the kit that you got as well. It's such a great kit
It's,
too.
I'm telling you, it was right at that time, exactly, 88, between 88 and 90.
Uh-huh.
But what's funny about it is you're going to love this, April, is the kit was pink.
Oh yeah.
It was the
That's awesome.
it was the Cherry Rose Grand Star, which is what Joey Kramer had on, I think, the Pump tour.
That's
And
awesome.
that's the only pink kit I had ever seen. Like, even to this day, I still have the kit. I ended up rewrapping it like a white marine, so I still have that drum set. But
I love
I
that you
remember
still
looking
have
on my
it.
dad's face. Oh yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, you hold things that are
Heck
real
yeah.
close to you and emotional. We had a lot of memories together with that kit. So, but I remember when my dad co-signed the loan, and he just let me go buy the drum set. So we practiced at the band did at my parents' house in the basement. And my dad got home from work the day I got the kit, and he came downstairs and he looked. He goes, "Pink," and I'd say, some of the things that he said. I'm like, "It's Cherry Rose." I'm like, "It's pink." Yeah. So I got harassed a little bit for it.
Yeah.
But I'll run into people to this day like, "Man, I remember that pink drum set you had." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, but you know what? Back
You
in the
know?
'80s, like the pink and the bright green and all that stuff was like cool. Anything like that was
Sure.
like super
Absolutely.
cool. That's killer, man. So, what was the name
Yeah.
of like your first band? You're 14, I think you said, when you got in your first band. What was the name of that band?
Sabre.
Saber.
Sabre. And we had the tiger teeth, the Sabre tiger teeth on the outside of the logo. And it was actually with my friend Jeff Pringle, who him and I had known each other since we were 6 years old. And we did all the tennis rackets with Kiss, when we were 7, 8, 9, 10. And he ended up picking up guitar. So from the time I was 14 to about 25, him and I played in Sabre. And I think it was 1991, which I would have been 20 or 21 at that time, we got Heavy Metal Band of the Year, which was like the Northern Virginia Rhythm magazine. But like the big bands around here, Kicks and Child's Play and a bunch of other bands. But we did our thing locally. But the problem is like a lot of bands, we were doing that 80s thing, but at where our age was at, the 90s kicked in, and we know how it all
Right.
changed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So it was kind of that, the timing thing. But yeah, and then I started doing kind of like an alternative rock band, in the mid '90s, and just kind of went with it.
Well, so the band,
Yeah.
the band Saber, were you guys an original band or were you a cover band?
Yeah, it was an original band. I think we did a 6-song EP, and I think it was 17 or 18, and it was the first time I was in the studio, and I had to play to a click track.
Right.
And boy, that was I'll just say fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was interesting doing it at that age, because it was at the Shenandoah Music College here in Virginia, and the tape did really well. Like, we were a popular local band. I think we had 500 copies made, and we sold all the copies.
Wow,
And
that's amazing. That's really great.
yeah, the band did really, really well locally. What's funny about it is we would play. There was a couple of venues that had nationals come through, and we knew the club owner. So and we'd always did well. If the club owner knows you bring in some people, he'll give you more gigs. And we opened up for Cinderella, which Eric Brittingham, and now in the Bret Michaels
Wow.
Band. Yeah. So Cinderella, Kansas, and Jackal. There was a bunch of those bands that came through that we got to open up for. But yeah. But yeah, Sabre was the dream when I was younger. You know what I mean? Like, and the band was actually really good. It was just bad timing. So.
Wow, yeah, and like you said, once the end of the '80s happened and the '90s kicked in, and music just changed so drastically. What did you do at that point? I mean, I remember that like it took me a little while. It took me 3 or 4 years to come to terms with the fact that I couldn't play this rock metal kind of music anymore. It just wasn't going to happen. And then I switched to kind of like a funk kind of alternative sort of thing. But what did you end up doing after Sabre? Did you start like an alternative thing? And if so, what kind of stuff did you play?
Yeah, I had a conversation with the guitar player, because again, him and I were best friends, and not just guys in a band. And I told him, I'm like, man, we need to change this up. I know like Collective Soul and a bunch of other bands were, I mean, had Alice in Chains and a lot of that stuff, but we needed to change the sound of the band, and he just kind of refused. He just wanted to stay the course, and so I ended up leaving the band and getting with. It was actually the guitar player with B&B, Pete Evick, which today's his birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday,
he
Pete!
Was in a band called, he was in a band called Some Odd Reason, and Some Odd Reason had a singer that was very Indiana, very John Cougar, very Middle America. Just had a beautiful tone, beautiful voice, and he wrote very simple, 2, 3, 4 chord songs, and he was great with hooks and melodies. He wasn't a super guitar player; he was just a very simple songwriter. And him and Pete had gotten together, and they had a band called Some Odd Reason, and they went through the first stages of a record deal and like a distribution deal in New York with a label called Soul 3 Records. And I guess they did some draft tracking, and it was recommended that they get another drummer. And that's where Pete had contacted me, and I learned the songs, got together with the band, and it just kind of went from there. I went up to New York, and we pulled those steel doors from the ground and went to underground to a rehearsal spot in New York City. And the producer for that record was Richard Goddard, who wrote "I Want Candy." "I Want Candy."
Yeah,
a lot
Bow
of
Wow
60s
Wow.
and 70s. Right. George Thorogood, the Go-Go's. This guy produced a lot of bands. And he's sitting down on this couch, and he's got his arms crossed and his leg crossed. And I was as nervous as I'll get out. And we ended up playing, and it was great. I ended up working out perfect, and they ended up extending. There was a first album was supposed to be an EP. And then, but they ended up after, we went through a bunch of songs. The label extended it to 10 songs and a 3-album deal. And we ended up getting in an RV. And at that time, like Best Buy, Virgin Records, Tower Records, all those stores were still open. It wasn't long after that, but we did a Tower Records tour. We got in an RV with Pete's dad, and we drove all the way across the country, went through Texas, Arizona, Georgia, Florida, you name it, we went through it. And, that was, they were critical steps on the ladder in the music business. When you look in retrospect, all the things you've done, and it was a really, really good time. And then the band was really good too. I ended up moving to Arizona a couple years later. An IT job had actually hired me, and I moved out there. So that's how the band parted ways from that. But we had a good couple of years, and it was a really good band. Had a very 90s kind of Goo Goo Dolls sound. In fact, Amazon, all the digital outlets have it. It's called Some Odd Reason. Maybe you just go look it up.
I was going to ask you if it's something that people can still pick up. And did you guys ever do a music video or anything for Some Odd Reason?
No, we didn't. What's funny about it is the deal was a straight up distribution deal. So they put all the all the CDs and all the stores and everything else, but everything else we had to support. So on one side it was tough, but the other side we didn't have, sign our lives away, so to speak. So, we had to put all the money for the touring and the road and all that other stuff. But yeah, at that time there was no video that we did, unfortunately. At least not that I'm aware of.
Right. Well, did you guys actually tour with any bands at that time, or was it just kind of out promoting the album and trying to get all the sales you can?
It was pretty much just us. I mean, again, with it being a distribution deal, they weren't putting a whole lot of work into getting us on certain tours and that sort of thing. And I know that things were going well at least before I left. And again, it could be, timing of the music business. But we just did our own thing. We played everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. And then we opened up for a lot of nationals, but they wasn't the same national over and over like a short leg tour or anything like that. But we were playing at least 4 or 5 nights a week consistently for a couple of years.
Just working it hard.
And what I think basically what happened, the singer, he ended up leaving and before I did. And it kind of changed the energy and the dynamic of the band. And so then with the timing of me getting this IT job in Arizona, they were paying for it, everything else. So But the good news is, as it comes back around and during the pandemic, I've been recording originals with some odd reason again. But it's Ryan, the singer, and he's got some great songs. So I've been able to spend time with a buddy of mine, Neil, his studio, just laying down drum tracks, and the songs are really, really good. So it's been fun working with Ryan again during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's so totally cool, and I can't wait to. Hopefully, you're gonna make that available somewhere where folks can hear that, and we'll have to let people know for sure.
It will be done hopefully in the next couple of months. I'm really excited about it. So
it's very cool. I love that when stuff comes back around. We've talked a little bit about how we've taken advantage of the time during the pandemic to hook up with our musician buddies and do different things, and it's really afforded us that ability to have the time to get back to our roots and old friends, and just record and have some fun like that. So cool. So after,
especially with all the traveling, it makes it more special when you connect with old friends and that sort of thing. So
yes, totally. So after that band disbanded, what happened next? So now this is like, what are we in? Probably 2000 or later at this point.
Yeah. So so it was about 99, 2000 when I moved to Arizona, and I ended up getting. I played in a few bands in Arizona. And there was this band that it was called the Camaros, and it was a 70s tribute band. And they had this girl bass player named Jessica, who was amazing. And she played the violin too. So the shit was awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it's super talented band. They played the Scottsdale circuit. And so I came in, and there was a lot of 70s stuff I hadn't learned, like a lot of the Who and other 70s bands. So it was fun for me to dig through and learn all these 70s songs that I knew, but I never really tried to practice or play. And we ended up doing all the Scottsdale things, making good money, and just playing and playing and playing. And we had 3 singers, because the girl sang, the bass player Jessica, and then the 2 guys who played guitar, they both sang leads. So one guy would do Bruce Springsteen, the other guy would do whatever. She would do Janis Joplin or whatever. So and then that's how I came across and met Robert Mason, who's the singer for Warrant.
Yeah. Very cool.
Right. His band called Metalhead, which was an 80s tribute, did the whole Arizona circuit too.
Right.
And his bass player, interesting enough, was dating the bass player in my band. So the girl Jessica. So we did a lot of gigs with them where it'd be Metalhead, 70s and 80s. And so that's how I met Robert. And that's just amazing how everything's worked out. He's done all the amazing things he's done, Lynch Mob and Warrant and everything else. So, but that came to an end in probably 2004 or so. I had just ripped all the cartilage out of my right ankle. And I had a surgery when I was 17 from a soccer injury where they ended up, like, instead of vacuuming the little bone spur out of my ankle, they just cut the cartilage all the way across. So when I was 17, so when my ankle healed, it healed the wrong way. And eventually it just started ripping all the cartilage off the top of my ankle.
Oh my gosh, that sounds excruciatingly painful too. And is it your right or your left?
Yeah, my right, your primary.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I ended up leaving the Camaros too, because I could have my foot flat and just lift my heel up and you could just hear the ripping. It was terrible.
Oh my gosh. No.
Yeah.
That's awful.
So I ended up having surgery. Well, I was waiting to go into surgery, and the plan was, and this was an amazing surgeon that I'd met, orthopedic surgeon. He did Arizona State, he did the Phoenix Suns, very athletic surgeon. And the plan was to do a complete cartilage replacement. And so they were just they got a donor, and I asked who it was, and it turns out it was a 14-year-old boy who had passed away. And I got his cartilage. And
wow, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a donor like that. You hear about organs, but you don't hear about cartilage and whatnot. That's incredible.
Right. I didn't know anything about this. And I'm laying in there, and I'm in the bed and getting ready to go in the operating room. And the surgeon comes up and he goes, well, we got a problem here. And I'm like, all right, well, that's not good. You're getting ready to go to surgery. So He said the nurse put the cartilage in the freezer. And again, don't know any of this, but I guess the freezing cold kills the cells of the cartilage. So on my insurance, it was, I think, $6,000 or $7,000 for this cartilage. It was just complete waste. So he goes, I can pull your IV out. You can get dressed, so you can get out of here right now. And then when we get another donor, come back and do it again.
Oh my gosh. How
right?
devastating,
so he goes, we go to
man.
plan B. So I'm like, all right, well, what's plan B? He goes, well, you might wake up with a cast. I might have to break your heel back because my heel was off. And he goes, I might have to break your heel. You might have to wake up. He goes, but other than that, I'm going to go in there and do some drilling and, blah, blah, whatever. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. I'm cool. I mean, like, I had so much confidence in this guy. It was amazing.
Wow.
That I said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up going in, and I'm telling you, it's like, with B&B since 2014, we're knocking out 150, 200 shows a year, and this ample is just on it. And I'm so grateful that for that surge and for that time in my life when that happened, because I really thought that, like, playing the drums, and I'm actually left-handed. I've just automatically just taught myself how to play right-handed. So I can play with my left foot.
Yeah.
If I need to.
Right.
I did that during a B&B show. My beater snapped in half on my primary.
Right. And
Bret immediately went into Your Mama Don't Dance, and he didn't know what was going on. And so I did the whole song with my left foot. And, I was pretty impressed I did it. I was like, well, I even tried to do that in front of her. And now it wasn't nearly as strong,
right.
as far as my right foot. But Gustavo Armenderos, that's who the doctor was. And
wow.
Whatever he did, like, I have some pains here and there, but, like, I have no issues playing at all, which is just, I'm grateful for. So
that's crazy. Mike, I've never told you this, but in 2013, I actually suffered what's called a Liz Frank injury, which is actually something most football players get. It's kind of like you dislocate your foot, right? And it was my right foot,
right.
And I had gigs and stuff. I subbed out gigs for a few weeks, but then I just worked in the studio and learned how to play left-footed. And so then I set up I set up a hi-hat, I set up two hi-hats. One was open and one that was closed, because, you like to have that, different parts of the song, you open it up or whatever. And so I just taught myself how to play left-footed and then switch the hi-hat based on which, the part of the song that I was playing. And I did that for, about 10, 15 shows while my foot healed up and I was in a boot, and people had to, like, set me up on the stage because I was on crutches, but yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think as drummers, we always try to find a way to play, no matter what.
Yeah.
We always want to be able to play.
Now, did you have the X hat on the right? Did you have the open X hat on the right?
No, I had them both in the same location. They were just offset a little bit.
Oh.
So one was back and higher up, and then one was a little closer and lower. So I just kind of reached back a little further and did it like that. And I mean, it worked great, I was just like, I just want to figure out a way to do it and be able to play and gig, because you just love playing. So it was pretty cool. But like I said, as drummers, I think we always just, find a way to power through. And especially you have something happen on the fly like you did, where you're like, well, here we go. I'm going to be slave driving it with my left foot for right now and just roll with it. You got to do it, man. Yeah, figure it out.
No excuses, right? You got to do it.
Yeah, totally. So you mentioned that you met Robert Mason, the singer for Warrant, when you were on the Arizona club circuit. So tell us all, because I know a lot of people know you from playing with Bret Michaels Band, and they want to know, like, how did all that come to be? How did you end up with that gig?
Well, the short story is the guitar player who's been with Bret for, I don't know, 20 years now, Pete, his band, and Pete, mind you, go back to the 90s. He's the guy that I toured with in Some Odd Reason.
Yeah, right.
And I also went to high school with him. So when I wasn't playing with Saber, I would fill in with his band. So him and I had been in, competing bands or in the same bands all the way since like 9th, 10th grade on. And his band that he had at the time opened up for, I believe it was the first version of the Bret Michaels Band back in, I don't even know what year it was. I mean, I would imagine 2000 or somewhere in there. And Pete ended up meeting Bret, and he got another opportunity to open up for them again. And eventually, Bret asked that band, Pete's band, just to become the Bret Michaels Band. So I don't know what happened with the first version of it, but so Pete's been his guitar player for 20 years. And the drummer that I replaced in the Bret Michaels Band, Chuck, had been in the band for 10 years prior to me getting in. And so for the last 17 years, Bret's had just the same two drummers. And Pete, I guess Chuck was whatever, his reasons for leaving. And that's where Pete called me. And I had met Bret several times. And I think, I think just the energy, getting along with meeting somebody. I mean, because talent is a big thing. It's one thing, but the energy and the trust
and the
that
chemistry,
you have.
like that chemistry.
Yeah. Right. And for whatever reason, Bret liked me, and when Chuck left, I got the call. So I kind of knew, probably a year or two before Chuck even left, that if he decided to leave, that I would probably, likely come in. And that's what ended up happening in 2014, and just learn all the songs. And there was one rehearsal, and then bang, you go out there, and you do it. So, and for me, it was a bit of a culture shock going from local band clubs to
Right.
a much bigger situation.
Yeah, playing a lot of shows and a lot higher profile shows. Big,
Absolutely.
huge crowds and whatnot. It's got to be crazy. And
not to mention, well, I was gonna say, it's not to mention that all the drummers that you admired or looked up to over the years, you're now either doing shows with them or their side stage. And I remember, like, when Vinnie Paul came out for the first time, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, Vinnie Paul, and he was so nice. He came up in a great show, the whole thing, but you get through that, and then you end up. It's like you're a drummer. You understand. It's like you be nervous about something, but you like that challenge. And I think a lot of most musicians are built like that. It's good to have those nerves because you're challenging yourself to do something, good. And either you do it or you walk away and you regret it. So
I always think of it like, it's kind of like, just walking up the high dive, and you're on the edge of the diving board. And you're just like, let's just freaking do it. And you just jump in and just give it your all,
That's a perfect example.
Yeah. That's how I always think about it. And I just throw myself into it, put everything I can and play hard, and it usually comes out good. If I'm overthinking it, then it's going to be a disaster. But if you just jump in and you just throw yourself into it and just tell yourself, I'm going to slam this, and it's just fun.
It'll work out, you know? Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Well, I have to ask you, because, like, we're around the same age. And so I know when I was growing up, it was like, oh, Poison, such a, just like, you're a fan of Poison. And so I was curious, were you a fan of Poison growing up as well? And was there a point where you were just like, wow, I'm playing with Bret Michaels. That's the coolest thing.
Well, my girlfriend in high school was like, how like the younger girls are with like New Kids on the Block or those boy bands, and they just start freaking out.
Right.
That's how my high school girlfriend was with Cece. Like, she loved Cece. And so, because I was always hanging out with her, I always Poison over and over and over again. Now, I would listen to, and I liked Poison, don't get me wrong, and I worked at a record store all through high school. I worked at the Sam Goody at the mall. So I knew, all the bands that came out. That's how I found Dangerous Toys and all these other bands.
Great band.
And right. So bands I like were like Sabotage or old school Metallica. There was Tesla, Motley Crue, Rat. Some of the a little bit heavier versus the glam side. Now, of course, Poison, had some great songs, great videos, all that stuff. There was the Tesla Poison tour. I think it was '92. I don't know what year it was that, but my girlfriend, her and I went to the Capitol Center in Largo, Maryland, and it was Tesla Poison, and Tesla was on, and we were still outside, and she wanted to meet Cece so bad. So I ended up sneaking her down the loading dock ramp down to the bottom, and nobody called. It's amazing that two kids just walked down near the door and just kind of hung out. And next thing you know, two buses started going down to the loading dock, and Cece and I think Bobby got off one bus, and they just walked right past us. And we were like, "Hi." She was done, and then Cece, it crushed her because he just kind of walked through, and they were late for the show. So
right.
they were late for the show. But it's amazing because when the second bus came down and like Bret and Ricky came off, Bret was the only guy out of the band that actually stopped. He stopped and came over to her and he said, "Hey, how you guys doing?" And shook her hand, and she didn't know what the heck to say. But it's like, it blew me away that someone, like him, like Bret, at that stature, that fame and everything else, he knew he was late, but he stopped and he said hi. And that's part of the, I'll call magical charisma or something, about the guy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
But the, as I gotten the gig, I've appreciated the songs a lot more, and he's also left it open to me doing me and not exactly doing what the record does, which I appreciated having that freedom. But yeah, that's it was very surreal, the first year, and it remains to be. But it's you're still. I know there's times when I've sat back and I've looked out, and there are 10, 20,000 people out there, and I'm like, I have Bret Michaels and Eric Brittingham directly in front of me on the stage, and I'm like, this is amazing,
Yeah, this is like the coolest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been doing it for, at that time, 3, 4, 5 years, and you still keep being grateful for that opportunity, and so, and it turns out Eric and I became friends, and he's just a hoot, that guy is. So and I was a big Cinderella fan as well. But yeah, so that's kind of the whole thing. I wasn't a huge Poison fan. Pete was a huge Poison fan. Like, he was, like, that was his band in high school. Like, he loved Poison, where I loved like Sabotage and a couple other bands that I really, really liked a lot, and which were a little on the heavier side. But so it's weird how things kind of work out. For sure.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to say that, like, I think that the thing that I always say this, the thing that makes a person good versus a person great is being grateful. Being grateful is something that really is a powerful personality trait that I think is so important, to always remain grounded and grateful. And I think that that's what keeps people genuine, like you were talking about how Bret was and how you are. I mean, you're still grateful for everything that you've gotten. You have those moments where you just kind of stop and think about how cool it is, and it is the coolest thing in those moments. I think a lot of us as drummers have had those moments where we're just like, you realize the moment when it's happening, and you're like, wow, this is like the coolest thing, and you just kind of like embrace that moment, and it's just so good to have that and to always keep that.
No, I think when you have those moments, you realize how many other people could be doing this, or want to be doing this in your spot, and if you lose touch of that, that's I think when it all falls apart. Being grateful for every moment, every show, every person, every fan, and that's one thing that I'll give credit to his career, is the importance of the fans, of being nice, going out of your way, and doing those little things. And over the course of these since 2014, it's amazing how many people will come back and tell you how grateful they are for that little tiny thing you did years before. And my mom always will say how proud she is of me. To be considerate and kind to other people. And it's okay to have that swagger. I'm on the stage, I'm the guy, but have that swagger, but never forget about being kind and compassionate to other people. Open the door for somebody, or say bless you when they sneeze. That's just how I've always been.
Totally.
And I think if everybody did it, everybody get along a little bit better.
I
You
think
know?
you're right, man. I think that so it does go a long way, and you never to your point, you
Yeah.
never know how you're gonna touch someone. You know, like by just doing
Right.
that one little small thing. Like it might have not have been that big a deal for you. It didn't take that much time. It was just something real quick or whatever. But it might have ended up being this huge thing for that person. So you should always take that
Yeah.
opportunity. I'm that same person where it's like, oh, hold the door for the person, or like, you know, if somebody waiting for me to cross the street in their car, I like put a little extra jump in my step to be like, oh, thanks, you know, or whatever, and
Right.
just always
Absolutely.
just
Absolutely.
smiling and being friendly to each other, because you never know how that might change the course of their day. I'm sitting here looking, and it looks like we're almost at the end of our 30 minutes, Mike, but I want to be sure and talk a little bit about your custom drum decor, and we've got a
Yeah.
link for everybody for that. So, like, tell everybody how that got started and what it is you do.
Well, in between with the breaks when we'd had off the road, and they were never long, but I kind of just a few years ago came across where I made a clock, and I put a drum hoop on it, and then I got a vinyl cutting machine, and it started just that was the first thing. It was a drum hoop clock, and then I did a snare drum, and then I ended up cutting a bass drum in half and putting lights on the inside of it, and then got custom decals on the front. And it's just the products. I keep adding more, and we're doing very well on Etsy. Sites like Etsy, Pinterest are great for home decor craft items like this, and it's something. I think most musicians they can keep themselves busy 24 hours a day with music, but at the same time they're just creative people. I think just and that's where I just wanted to come up with something different and just do something than just the music, and it's been doing very well. Like the pandemic, as terrible as it was for everyone, I think I utilized my time pretty good by just really ramping it up and making a lot of products, and I'm going to be at the Monsters on the Mountain Festival, which is in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. It's like October 15th, 16th, and 17th. I'll have a vendor table there with a whole bunch of drum clocks and a bunch of different products. And so if anybody's going to that festival, stop by. It's called Vendor Row. It's inside the venue where all the bands are playing. So I'm excited to keep this thing going. It's something that, like, I don't know if it's being a lefty and being artistic or whatever, but it's something that's great for me outside of playing my drums, just to have me time and do something creative, and something that, that I'm doing creative to the late hours, because, I think most musicians, it's hard for us to just get to sleep super early. So I stay up once everybody goes to bed, and I just start doing my thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I mean, the pieces are
yeah.
so very cool. I mean, you were so gracious to donate a couple of them a few years back for our Drummathon auction, raise a bunch of
And this year as
funds.
well.
Yeah, I can't wait to
Yep.
see what you send, man. Thanks for doing that, because yeah, we'll have that in our auction for Drummathon presented by Grandscape coming up October the 3rd. We're actually gonna auction everything online, and then people can see it in person, and they can scan a QR code and contribute
Yep.
and do the bidding online through eBay. So it's gonna be really cool. I'm really glad we'll see a couple more pieces. And I did put a link out there for everybody to check out your Facebook for your work, because it's just really amazing. Man, Mike, I could chat with you
Thank you.
forever. Every
Thank you.
time we hook up on the phone, I'm always like, we could just chat forever, man. I really enjoy catching up with you and hearing about all that's going on. And please keep us posted about any new releases or anything. We want to be sure and let everybody know about it. I need to give a few shout outs real quick. Some people are saying hello. Melissa K wanted to let you know hello. She's been watching all night. Angie says,
Hey,
Mike Bailey is one amazing drummer. William Martin says, beyond amazing. Patricia says, Mike is the best. Kathy says, we love you, Mike. Max says, attitude of gratitude. I love that.
Yeah,
awesome.
I like
Very
that.
cool.
Way to
Yeah.
go, Max.
Yeah.
I like that.
Jen says, Mikey is
That's
one of the
good.
best. And Patricia says, you're so genuine. Yes, and William Martin says, Bret Michaels Band is awesomeness and so genuine. And there's
Billy.
lots of
Hey,
love in
Billy.
here, man. You're gonna have to go through these comments after we stop the show and
I
check
will.
out everything. But this will also be posted up on our YouTube channel, so everybody can watch the replay there as well on Facebook. But Mike, man, thank you so much for joining tonight. It was so great to hook up and chat again. I look forward to every time we get a chance to talk.
Thank you, April. God bless you, and I appreciate it. And I will be putting everything out on my social media for what I'll be sending to April for the auction, all the drum stuff, and all the Drummathon things that are coming up soon. So anything I can do to help you to raise more money, you know I support this amazing cause. So God bless you for what you do, April.
Thank you so much, Mike. God bless you too, and I look forward to chatting again with you real soon.
All right, we'll see you.
Have a great night. You guys, give it up for Mike Bailey, man. Drummer extraordinaire, amazing man, full of gratitude. And be sure and check out his link there in our broadcast for his custom drum decor. Man, such cool stuff that he makes out there. It's excellent. And what a great night, y'all. This rocked, man.